When we think of birth control today, we picture pills, condoms, implants, maybe a little plastic device the size of a matchstick. All pretty recent, right? But birth control, the idea of preventing pregnancy, is not modern. It's ancient, and sometimes a little wild. For thousands of years, women around the world have tried to control when, or if, they got pregnant, and they did it with the tools they had: herbs, oils, sponges, rituals, and yes, even crocodile dung. So today, we're rediving into a part of history that is often overlooked, sometimes dismissed, but absolutely worth exploring. What did ancient women use for birth control? Let's go back and find out. In the ancient world, pregnancy was risky. Every childbirth could be life-threatening. No hospitals, no antibiotics, no emergency C-sections. And yet, in most societies, women were expected to bear children, often many, whether they wanted to or not. So finding ways to prevent pregnancy wasn't just about convenience. It was about survival, about spacing out births, about making decisions with what little control was available. And without doctors or pharmaceuticals, women turned to what they did have: plants, minerals, folk knowledge, and an incredible amount of creativity. Let's start in ancient Egypt, around 1800 BCE. There's a medical text called the Kahun Papyrus that actually includes a recipe for contraception. Ready for it? Acacia gum, honey, and crocodile dung. Yes, crocodile dung. The mixture was shaped into a pessary, a kind of vaginal suppository, and inserted before sex. Now, this sounds bizarre, but there's a weird logic to it. Acacia, when fermented, produces lactic acid, which can immobilize sperm, and honey is a natural preservative and antibacterial agent. The crocodile dung part? That might have been symbolic, or maybe just tradition. Either way, hygiene probably wasn't ideal. Still, women were experimenting with natural spermicides thousands of years ago. In ancient Greece and Rome, the methods became a bit more refined. Greek physicians like Cyrenus of Ephesus suggested using wool soaked in oils or herbal mixtures, inserted into the vagina to block sperm from reaching the cervix. Think of it as an early version of the contraceptive sponge, just made with olive oil and cloth. Then there was silphium, a plant native to what's now Libya. It was so highly valued for its supposed contraceptive properties that it was literally printed on coins. Some women took it orally, others applied it topically, and it wasn't just used as birth control. It may have had abortive properties as well. Unfortunately, silphium was so heavily harvested that it went extinct. Ancient records even mention that the last stalk was given to the Roman emperor as a gift, a birth control plant, hunted into extinction. In ancient India, texts like the Kama Sutra and Ayurvedic manuals included contraceptive recipes using herbs, seeds, powders, and oils. One method involved soaking sponges or cloth in herbal mixtures made from tree bark, seeds like palasha, and red chalk, then inserting them before intercourse. These recipes were passed down through oral tradition, practiced by midwives, and deeply woven into local health systems. Meanwhile, in ancient China, there were more dangerous approaches. Some texts describe using mercury or lead-based mixtures as contraceptives. And yes, these could reduce fertility, but they also poisoned the women using them. a tragic example of how the line between medicine and poison was incredibly thin in the ancient world. Let's not forget the Islamic Golden Age, roughly 8th to 13th century CE. Physicians like Avicenna or Ibn Sina documented dozens of birth control methods. Some involved herbal pastes, others vaginal washes, some dietary restrictions thought to cool the body or reduce fertility. The point is, the knowledge was global, and women, across cultures, were constantly trying to find something that worked. But not all ancient birth control was physical or chemical. Some methods were behavioral. Withdrawal, or coitus interruptus, is mentioned as early as the Bible. Not exactly groundbreaking, but definitely ancient. Others involved timing, avoiding sex during certain phases of the menstrual cycle, though without a modern understanding of ovulation, this was mostly guesswork. Then there were techniques like squatting, sneezing, or washing immediately after sex to try and expel sperm. Again, not particularly effective, but they reveal just how resourceful and determined women were. Now let's talk about risk, because many of these methods were dangerous. Pennyroyal, for example, a plant used in Europe to bring on menstruation, could also cause liver failure or death in higher doses. Some vaginal preparations cause burns or infections. And substances like lead or mercury, as we mentioned, were outright toxic. But the risk was accepted because the alternative, another pregnancy, another dangerous birth, was sometimes even worse. So women made hard choices with imperfect knowledge in a world that gave them little control over their own bodies. And here's the part that often gets lost. Much of this knowledge was preserved not by scholars, but by women, midwives, healers, mothers, and daughters. It was whispered in homes, shared in rituals, passed down like family recipes. That's why so much of it isn't in the history books, because men weren't the ones preserving it, women were. And a lot of it, we've lost. So, what did ancient women use for birth control? They used what they had: plants, oils, stones, sponges, animal products, timing, ingenuity, and an unshakable desire for agency. Were the methods effective? Sometimes. Were they safe? Often not. But the real story here is the persistence, because long before science caught up, women were already doing the science themselves. They were testing, risking, remembering, building their own forms of protection in a world that didn't always protect them. And that is worth remembering. Thanks for watching. If you found this story interesting, give it a like. Subscribe for more deep dives into health history and let us know. Which ancient method surprised you the most? See you in the next one.